You're now listening to the Zod and Drea podcast.
Hello, everybody.
Thought I left you hanging, huh? Just like, staring at me.
I was like, right?
How you feel? How you feel about that?
That's trickery.
Yeah. Hey, what's going on, people? Zod and Drea back again for our podcast. And it was a busy week.
Yeah, I guess you could hear maybe a little bit of the exhaustion from our voices, just a little bit.
Tired.
It has been an active but really awesome week.
A lot in the political scene. I mean, we didn't do a lot just, personally. We have a lot of fun. I mean, last Sunday, we, not this past Sunday, but the last Sunday, we did our half marathon over here at the Phoenix, rock and roll once again. But since then, it's just been a whole political, just craziness from the Donald Trump inauguration, the day of, which had a small protest. But then, of course, the Women's March was the next day. And that was a much bigger protest.
On a global scale.
So that one was huge. In between all of that, we are getting filtered through the press secretary of the Trump administration. Instead of useful information on how to make the country, quote unquote, great again, we're getting egos. Mm-hmm. I mean, basically everything searched and based around egos. And we're going to address some of that today on our main topic.
And then we're also going to talk about, again, from our experience on participating in the Women's March here in Phoenix. And also we were able and really lucky to have the opportunity to listen on a lecture that was hosted by Sonia Sotomayor, Supreme Court Justice. She paid a visit here in Phoenix, Tempe area, and we'll talk a little bit about her, not really lecture, would you say it's more of a conversation she had?
More of a conversation that she had. She didn't even have that many questions.
No.
So it was more of a lecture, and she answered it and walked around the crowd. So we're going to get into a little bit more details about that. But the basis of what we're going to be talking about today is what you hear from every Trump supporter now, because once Trump has said it once,
it's gospel.
They have repeated it, and it's about quote unquote fake news. So the topic today is how is the fake news narrative from the Trump administration influencing citizens?
Oh boy.
How is it influencing you, and how the media works? So
let's get
it going. But first, what do you want to talk about? Let's talk about let's talk about Sonia Sotomayor.
Yeah.
Because let's start it off on a good note. So ASU had put on a lecture with Sonia Sotomayor, the Associate Supreme Court Justice. She's definitely one of the newest, if not the newest, member appointed by President Obama. And I can't believe she's been there for 8 years. She said 8 years.
I know. I remember her, the vetting process.
You remember? I mean, God.
And that got ugly.
Yeah, and it's like, come on, this woman doesn't have a mark. Doesn't have a mark. She was appointed, what they say, senior circuit judge. I think it was that. But I know George H.W. Bush had appointed her. And then I think. Who was next? Clinton. Bill Clinton, I think, appointed her as a federal judge, I believe.
Right. She's the only judge on the Supreme Court that has worked in all four of the rankings of the court systems.
Was it all 4 or 3? 4?
Oh, yeah, 4.
So, I mean, we're talking about a woman that was vetted by 3 presidents, and that's where she is. So it was really an honor to be able to see her and listen to her speak. She's so soft-spoken. And funny. I thought she was funny. I like, that's what surprised me, that she was funny
and vulnerable. She shared when she first started off her conversation. Really, she talked about how it's important for people to know what they are good at and what they're not good at.
Yeah, that's how she started.
Yeah. And so this way you know your limitations and you know what to excel at and really focus on. So she talked a little bit about how her mom got her into a ballet class, right? And she says, my mother, she's perfect at everything, right? And, girls, we always compare ourselves to our mother, or somehow, some way mothers compare themselves to their daughters. So she had said that her mother is graceful, dances, does everything. And Sonia's like, I do the opposite. She's like, I can't dance. I'm klutzy. I'm uncoordinated.
They tried to make her as a singer. She's like, look, that's just not what I do.
I'm not talented in that sense. But what she understood was that she is an extrovert and she loves to be around people. So she tied that into what can I do to enhance that skill. She got into debate.
Yeah, she got in the debate. She likes writing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she said she loved to write.
Loves to write.
And so, got into the debate. I mean, it's funny where people, they come from and just what path do you take? You go left, you can go here. You go right, you go here. You make one mistake and you're out. And, here she is, a New York-born Puerto Rican, and I mean, that got a lot of cheers.
Lots of Boricuas there to celebrate her.
A lot of them. And first Latina, on the Supreme Court. I mean, it has to be just an honor for, the little kids that were in the audience. I mean, you remember at the end, the kids who were running up trying to get her autograph. I mean, little kids. She
got off the stage and wanted to go into the audience and engage herself. She did not feel at all the vibe of being on stage. She's like, I want to go talk to the people. So you all of a sudden... And the poor camera crew over at ASU couldn't track her down. And she's going up the aisles. And in this auditorium, it's an old school auditorium. So you have very, steep seating. But anyway, she just engaged in the audience, started walking in the aisles.
Yeah, made sure that they turned the lights up. Mm-hmm. First thing she said, let me turn the lights up so I can see the audience. And she's like, if it were me, I would have this way closer to the stage. She said she wanted to be closer to the group. And literally, you couldn't even see. We were up the nosebleed, so we were up way up trying to look down at her, and we had to lean in just to see her because she was walking. She just started walking, not in front of the whole audience, but through the audience, weaving in and out, and just while she was talking and answering questions, hugging people,
taking selfies,
holding hands, and people taking her picture, and just telling people that she's going to come over there. She's like, don't worry, I'm going to come over there and hug you, the little kids.
And we're going to take a picture.
I mean, I love that interaction. I really love that interaction from a Supreme Court judge who is a real person and also has her own opinions, has her own opinions about certain things. I'm not going to say she was making jabs at Donald Trump, but she had a little, she threw a little bit out there. I thought it was a really positive experience.
One thing that stood out for me was how she talked about, and I think this relates to any woman or anybody, I shouldn't even say woman, anybody that is coming up in business or in your career and you were not blessed with having lots of money. You didn't come from a rich family. You didn't come from a well-to-do connected family, right? So she said that in her law firm, she wasn't connected in that sense. And a lot of the clients that this law firm received were because that person went to summer camp with that person or that person's family member, so she had all these people had these connections and she didn't have that. So she had to learn how to be her own rainmaker and find within let's say a client's group, how to really be and make that happen and extend. So in other words, it's like she knew that she didn't come from all of those backgrounds. She came from a working class family. So she made her own way through and made her own success. And I really loved that story. And I loved how it just really resonated with anybody that is looking to make it on their own without having all of those, if you're not blessed with having all that money.
All right, so let's get on to the next topic. If we're going to have more on Sonia Sotomayor, I'll put a link about her. But we got to talk about this Women's March.
Wow.
We got to talk about this Women's March.
How underestimated did people think this march was going to... how underestimated were we, really?
The march, they assume, was, I think, 3.2 million worldwide. So we're talking about women, not just in the United States that had it in multiple cities, And of course, DC was probably the biggest one because that's what the pilgrimage was to DC, which they estimate. I mean, they say 500,000, but then I hear 1 mil, and I'm hearing all kinds of numbers. I mean, the way that it looked, it's probably closer to 1 million than it was 500,000. But I mean, just the vast number of people in all the cities here in Phoenix. We went to ours, and it was way more than they had expected. There were about 20,000. I think it was 20,000.
Between 20 to 25,000 is what the range has been.
Because it was, I think in Tucson it was like 10,000 or something like that. Like city to city. I mean, Atlanta, St. Louis. I wonder if Las Vegas put one on. I didn't see anything in Las Vegas. But I mean, no matter what, they had little tiny small towns where they just had this one woman. They even had in Russia where they're not allowed to protest in public without special permission, but they still had a gathering of like 5 or 6 people in Moscow where they were able to hold up their signs. I mean,
and where was it that you found too? Antarctica, right?
In Antarctica, where it's inhabited. There were some like maybe like 20 women on a boat with their signs. I'm like, this is how much Donald Trump was protested against, in both protesting against Donald Trump's policies against women, but also in support of women, with what is going to be threatened in their lives in this Trump administration.
Mm-hmm. And of people of color and the LGBT and children. It was pretty much everything and every important factor in people's lives that his administration wants to silence and wants to limit was the cause, was what people were marching for.
So, I mean, we're talking anybody who is a mother, an aunt, a sister, a friend, and their supporters. Because there are a lot of men who did this also. Mm-hmm. So whether it is black, LGBT, it goes across the board. Everybody had their own reasons for marching. And what we're hoping is that people will come out for all the various groups that are separate, not separate, but weaved within, and that's the intersectionality of it, but weaved within, that they will come and support that. So if there's a gay parade or some sort, or, for gay rights that are out there and they need help protesting, the women who came out for this, for their reproductive rights and all this other stuff, we should hope that they will cross over into that, because what did Martin Luther King say? A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to something like that. Whatever, I gotta look it up. But just a threat to justice. If it happens in one place and anywhere that it happens, it's gonna eventually the chicken's gonna come home to roost.
Right. It's gonna affect everything.
And when it does, you'd better be ready, because if you didn't support somebody before, why in the hell should they support you?
Right. So hope to see you at an immigration rally.
Hope to see you at Black Lives Matter rally
with your beanies and
your pink hats. Yeah, with your pink hats. So it's gonna get real. But let's talk about the main topic.
Please listen carefully.
Once again, make sure you listen to the Zod and Drea podcast by subscribing to one of the following podcast methods: iTunes, Google Play, or YouTube. Visit our website at www.zodanddrea.com to go directly to the links, or if you choose, you can listen to each podcast episode directly on the website under their individual posts.
Want to get involved and have your voice heard on the next podcast? Then be sure to tune in to the question of the week on our website, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram page. And dial in and leave a message on our voicemail at 323-963-4221.
If you're an advertiser who would like to have your 30-second or 1-minute placement on our podcast or YouTube episode, please contact us at info@zodanddrea.com and we'll send you a price list. Space is limited for each episode.
The next podcast might even have you as a featured guest.
Tune in, check us out, and get involved.
All right, people.
We're back.
Let's get into this. This topic it's one that's been happening, and it only happens in this administration. And it's funny how people parrot somebody who they find to be a leader, and when you don't have your own sense of direction, you don't have your own mind, you don't have your own free thought, you have to look to someone who you find to be a leader, mimic them, whatever they say is gospel, and you find that you're intelligent in your response by just repeating what they say. And we're not just talking about just political points. Like, we're talking about just idiocy here. And, political points is one thing, and that if you believe them. But a lot of these people don't seem to believe it. And the topic on this is, how is the fake news, the quote-unquote fake news narrative from the Trump administration influencing citizens? And if you have spent any time on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, or otherwise, that discusses news, but within the last, 6 months, there's been this big uptick of, that's fake news. That's fake, like with that term. And it comes from like the Trump administration, who's driving that narrative and forcing others to try to believe that what he is putting out or what he says in his tweets is real news. And these people who have Pulitzer Prizes, Peabody Awards, Robert, whatever, Murrow or whoever it is, Murrow Awards, that they are wrong. It's almost like them, trying to define climate control as fake. Like we know what climate control is, but, what about all those scientists? That's fake news. And so now we're seeing this big uptick of fake news. And we're wondering how the citizens are taking it. We see how the media is taking it because they are getting beaten. And I'm not saying every media outlet is fair. A lot of them, they're going to have their own slant. They're going to have their own agenda.
Right. And let's admit, the media, the big headliner medias, your CNNs, your MSNBCs, your Fox, ABCs, whatever have you, they fed into this beast of Trump, okay? Because how many times did we see their newsreel or their headline or their announcing of their news having Trump's name, okay? During even before even the really tight run of the election, they fed into the celebrity of him, made him into this bigger beast, right? And he loves that attention. We got to admit, the man loves the attention, right? So now this beast has been created. He's now in the White House. No one believed he would. So what do they do?
The news media wound up putting Trump here because they not just undermined him. It wasn't just the undermining him or whatever their pollsters were saying. Nobody took him seriously. It's not even that. I think even Trump had admitted that this is his best use of the media by just promoting himself. Like, he was using the media to promote himself. He's like, oh, look at that. It's free promotion. It's just free press. This is awesome. He didn't have to pay for the press. So they kept coming out just wondering, oh, what's he going to say next? What's he going to say next? How disruptive is it? How inflammatory is it? How racist is it going to be?
How shocking is it going to be?
Is he going to be able to, and once he finally spit out a sentence that wasn't stupid, it's like, oh my God, look at what Trump said. He's so smart. I mean, he set the bar so low that they just kept feeding him. So when they were talking, they created that monster. They created the monster of Trump. And then when he gets elected, it's like, oh shit. I think it was that when he gathered all the media over in his new hotel in D.C.
Oh, yeah.
That's when he did it. He had nothing to do with politics. He's like, oh, thanks here. You're promoting my fucking hotel. And that's finally when the news had a hissy fit everywhere. Like, oh my God, he used it. It's like, dude, he's been using you the whole time. Why are you just catching on to this? Mm-hmm. So, we fast forward to, let's talk about his numbers in the inauguration.
Okay.
The one thing that they did was, first thing, I think it was ABC News. I think they may have been the first ones to pull it out. It was either ABC or, God, I forgot. It might have been someone else, but somebody had been retweeted a lot, but they compared the 2000 historic, inauguration of Barack Obama, and they showed the crowds there. At a similar time...
At 2000, which one?
2009. Mm-hmm. So that's when, he was being inaugurated right there. And then they showed the 2017 inauguration of Donald Trump, which was right there. Apples to apples because it was around the same time. So... obviously, the Trump people were like, oh, what time was this taken? And when I was there was all these people. Meanwhile, on Twitter, there are people showing videos saying, look, this is 15 minutes before Trump is supposed to come out, and this is what it looks like. And it's
the route was empty.
It was not just empty. I mean, if you look at the Obama picture, they're not just flooded in all of the sections all the way back. But they're flooded in the streets on the side. I mean, you can't see anything. And they said that, the Trump people were saying, oh, this is fake news. Look at all the white that's on there, The
white tarp that's on the grass.
Yeah,
it's never been there before.
It's never been there. And it's like, actually it was, for at least his second inauguration, I think. And it might have been on there in his first, but it was covered. You can't see it. Now, we're talking about the first black president ever. So there's a big, huge, 43 presidents since the start, 250 years of when they established this country, I should say, established this country under their laws and rules that they created for the people that already lived here. And here's a black guy who finally comes up. What do you think is going to happen when the first black president sworn in versus a guy who's a charlatan, who's a con man, comes in on nothing but divisiveness and, all these people that voted and also least popular.
The least, yeah.
He's one of the least popular presidents with an approval rating of like 37.
And those are from nonpartisan polls.
Yeah, I mean, like his coming in, like people are like, oh, this guy's a dirtbag. So nobody's really going to be that enthusiastic about him. Like, it doesn't matter that he won the election. He won it with 3 million less than Hillary Clinton. So what does he do for his first presser in front of that his press secretary comes out? What does he do?
Whines.
He whines.
Whines about it. It is such a whine.
Sean Spicer comes out with 2 pictures of the crowd from Trump's perspective. Now, if you've ever been in a sea of people, if you've ever been anywhere where you can look from where your height is and look straight out, it's going to look much further and there's going to be a lot more people than from an aerial view. When you see that difference, it's like, so what they were showing was just from like Trump's perspective, more or less, like, oh my God, look at all the people. Yeah, you can't, like, come on, we're not hawks. We can only see a certain way. Like, I mean, stop it. That's not the proof. It's like the turnstile, like, oh, this whole area right here holds 250,000. No, stop lying. Like, you are not catching up to Barack Obama's numbers at 1.1 million, people on that. You're not going to catch on to that because it's not historic. Donald Trump is not historic. He's a game show host, con man who conned his way into the White House. People fell for it for all the stuff that he said. Drain the swamp. He's not going to do it. Okay, so he's not going to do anything you guys say. He's going to do his own little thing, his TPP thing, whatever, defunding this, making sure women's rights were, encroached upon, and that's all he's going to do. But instead of talking about what was happening in the women's march, like, they got Sean Spicer out there talking about, nope, this is what happened. He's the most watched guy, period, whatever. And, look at this. And
like, he had to have seen, and he did see on his route between the FBI headquarters, right, and to the White House, the day of the march, mind you, his first day in office, he had the route because he did his first, public appearance over at the CIA headquarters, right? Which was
too.
A catastrophe and an insult. Yeah. It was so insulting. So anyways, the route, you could pass by all of these protesters. You have to have seen them. And there's even pictures from people on their cell phones taking pictures of the presidential route coming through in front of them in D.C. So he saw all of these protesters.
Oh, he saw it. His caravan.
He saw them all. And it's on a global scale. Constant reports of protests in Germany, in France, all about what you stand for. Come on. And you had and this man did not even acknowledge the millions of women.
Well, he kind of did on his Twitter account.
Next day.
Yeah, he tweeted on his real Donald Trump account, and then he did the POTUS one. So on the real Donald Trump, he said something condescending as usual, but on his POTUS one, it's like, protesting is the democracy of, even though I might not agree, blah, blah, like, shut up, dude. Don't, like, he's playing the two, the two against each other on 2 different Twitter accounts. So, I mean, I don't know why they don't take that thing away from him.
And then for him to make a statement on his Twitter saying how celebrities hurt.
Yeah.
He is a celebrity.
Like, he doesn't realize that's where he is, but that's what he wants to be. Like, I mean, he has a star on the freaking, like, he has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which has been
It's like, dude, point the finger at yourself.
And he just won't. And then let's get into not just Sean Spicer spreading the fake news narrative, but let's get into Kellyanne Conway.
Paddington Bear.
So looking crazy as usual, looking like she's coked out. Who knows what she's doing? Looking like she has no sleep. She comes on Meet the Press, talking to Chuck Todd, and talks. What are they talking about? The damn numbers again. So of course she's repeating and parroting what Trump says, because the more that they repeat it, the more the citizens seem to want to try to believe that. It's like their eyes are deceiving them. They're like, no, what Donald Trump says is true. What my eyes see or something is something else.
Or what my logical brain is trying to say.
No, Trump thinks for me, so I must therefore repeat what he says. Exactly. It's like robotic. So she goes on there with Chuck Todd, and instead of discussing the truth of numbers, she literally, instead of saying, well, Sean Spicer lied about what it is, she said that he was spinning alternative facts. Now, if you do a hashtag alternative facts on Twitter, you will have a ball and have a lot of fun. But this is what they've been doing. They've been twisting so that media, they're trying to create the media to look like enemies. Mm-hmm. They're trying to make themselves look like they are the media, so that they are the truth. So and I believe this is what Donald Trump wanted from the door. He didn't want to be president.
We know this.
Yeah, he wanted to drive media and control a media empire of some sort. That's what he wanted. He didn't want to be a president. But now that he's accidentally slipped into it, he's got to do this. But his narrative is the same. Alternative facts. What is an alternative fact? 10 plus 10 is 20. Alternative fact is 10 plus 10 is 21.
Right. That's the alternative fact.
That's the alternative fact.
Right. Because it's a fact because I think it's true. That's why it's fact.
It's ridiculous.
It's another word for a lie. But you notice this, though. It is the spin of words. It is the changing of vocabulary. Because you can't say a lie. You can't say, yes, he lied, because what does that trigger? We all know, okay, a lie is bad.
Yeah.
So you don't say the bad word. You say, it's an alternative fact. Instead of saying, the group that supports him is a white supremacist group. No, you relabel them as alternative. Was it alt-right?
The alternative fact. Alt-right. The alt-right and the alt-right instead of white supremacists.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. So it's like, stop trying to dictate and create new words, new spin on what we know what it is. So the citizens wind up falling for it. So if you ever go on like some of these comment sections, they're like, oh, you know what? CNN is fake news. Because that one time where he was messing around with that Acosta guy, where he said, I mean, he literally was an oppressor taking questions, and he didn't want to answer CNN's question. So he pointed at him and said, I'm not talking to you, CNN. You're fake news. Like, how do you treat the press? The press is not there to listen to you and repeat everything you say. The press is there to listen to you and then fact check what you say to see if it's right or wrong. That's what the press is there. They are there to, they're there to police your words before they print them. And if they find something wrong, then, hey, you're wrong. It's not an alternative fact. It's that fact that you lied. So we're not going to just have you control that. But some of the citizens, the Trumpanzees, they don't care what he says. They're up there chimping around and, monkeying around with whatever his words are. And it's a crazy situation in this country.
It scares me, but at the same time, it's like, okay, people, now if you're really upset, do something about it. I hope the press, and I read an article today, actually it's from the New York Times, 3 steps on how the press can turn this around and go against Trump.
How?
And one of them was to stand up for each other. So the press conference that he pointed out and singled out that CNN reporter, the press should change now their culture. Instead of being so competitive, come together and rally together and come and support each other.
It's true. He needs them. He needs them.
Right. And put away the side of the competition. And there's proof that shows that if the news entities come together, they can do true reporting. And it's reporting that is not at all tied to any type of well, I have to do it this way because my boss wants it this way. It's true reporting and it can happen. So they're saying come together, support each other, and don't report on him anymore.
And if they do that, he's going to have a hissy fit. And he'll just start putting out his own facts and Breitbart and bullshit-ass news and controlling, consider that. Fox will never side with that.
No.
I hope they do, and I hope Shep Smith, the only brain over there, does something.
Yep. I love that name.
But anyway, continue the conversation online if you can, at Facebook, of course, Zod and Drea. And, we got to get over this fake news narrative.
No.
It's like, I mean, if you allow this man in the last year or whatever for him to control the news and his quote unquote take on alternative facts, then we're doomed for the future of whatever this is. He didn't have to show his taxes. He didn't have to do a whole bunch of things. And, we're going to now require less of a president because of this guy.
So not only keep an eye on what he's doing, which we know it'll be impossible to not see, but keep an eye on the people in his cabinet. That's who really is scaring me.
Yeah, and they're fake administrators.
Mm-hmm. Keep an eye on the cabinet. Keep an eye out, everybody, on some of the laws that are coming through.
Yeah, so check us out, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, @ZodAndrea. And as usual, we're going to see you again next time.
Let us know what your thoughts are.
All right, so we'll talk to you later.
Bye.